I stood frozen in my daughter Janelle's kitchen doorway, watching my youngest baby Rochelle press her lips against Janelle's husband Darius, like her whole wedding wasn't scheduled for next Saturday. The rehearsal dinner menu was already paid for. The church was booked. Her fiancé Terrence had his tuxedo hanging in their apartment closet. But there she was, in a red dress that cost more than my mortgage payment, wrapped around her sister's man like he belonged to her. They didn't even hear me come in. I'd used the spare key Janelle gave me months ago, the one she pressed into my palm saying, "Mama, you're always welcome here." My hands were full of the sweet potato pies I'd baked for Sunday dinner, Janelle's favorite, the recipe passed down from my own mama. Those pies hit the floor with a crash that could wake the dead. Rochelle jumped back so fast she knocked over a wine glass. Red wine spread across Janelle's white marble counter like blood. Darius's eyes went wide, and he had the nerve to try to smile at me like I'd just caught him doing something innocent. "Mama," Rochelle started, but I held up my hand. "Don't you mama me right now," I said, my voice shaking. "Where is your sister?" "She's at choir practice," Darius said, finding his voice. "Mrs. Washington, this isn't what it looks like." "Boy, I'm 72 years old, not senile," I cut him off. "I know exactly what I just saw." Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back to where this mess really started. Because this wasn't just some sudden thing. This poison had been spreading through my family for months, maybe years, and I'd been too blind to see it. My name is Beatrice Washington, and I raised 2 daughters in a little house on the south side after their father passed when they were young. Janelle was my responsible one, always had been. She worked 2 jobs to put herself through nursing school, took care of me when I had my hip replacement 3 years ago, and never asked for anything she didn't earn herself. She married Darius 5 years ago at our church, Mount Zion Baptist, and I walked her down that aisle with tears in my eyes because I thought she'd found a good man. Then there's Rochelle, my baby girl. I'll admit it, I spoiled her. After her father died, I couldn't stand to see her cry, so I gave her everything. Dance lessons, the latest clothes, a car for her 16th birthday that I had no business buying. Janelle never complained, just worked harder and stayed humble. But Rochelle, she got used to having things handed to her. By the time Rochelle turned 30, she'd burned through 3 jobs and 2 apartments I'd helped her pay for. She was beautiful, looked just like my mother with those high cheekbones and long legs, and she knew it. Men followed her around like puppies, but none of them were ever good enough for her. Until Terrence. Terrence worked in finance, drove a Mercedes, and had a condo downtown. When Rochelle brought him to Sunday dinner 6 months ago, I could see dollar signs in her eyes. He seemed nice enough, maybe a little boring, but he treated her well, and he had a good job. That was more than I could say for most of the men she'd dated. The engagement happened fast. 3 months of dating, and Terrence proposed at some fancy restaurant. Rochelle called me at midnight squealing about the ring. 2 carats, platinum band, cost more than I made in 6 months of my pension. I was happy for her, truly. I thought maybe marriage would settle her down, give her some purpose. But then the wedding planning started, and everything went sideways. Rochelle wanted everything to be perfect, which really meant everything had to be expensive. The venue alone cost $15,000. The dress was another $8,000. She hired a wedding planner, a photographer who'd shot celebrity weddings, and a florist who imported roses from Ecuador. Terrence's parents were helping, but they kept dropping hints that Rochelle's spending was getting out of hand. I used my savings to help where I could, even though Janelle told me I shouldn't. "Mama, you need that money for yourself," she'd said when I mentioned buying Rochelle's wedding shoes. "You can't keep bailing her out." But what was I supposed to do? She was my daughter, and it was her wedding day. A mother wants her child to be happy. The problems really started about 2 months ago. Rochelle's wedding planner quit, said Rochelle was too demanding and changed her mind too much. Then the bridesmaids started dropping out, one by one. First it was Rochelle's college roommate, then her cousin Shanice, then 2 friends from her gym. By the time we got to 3 weeks before the wedding, only Janelle was left standing as maid of honor. Janelle never complained, even though I knew Rochelle was driving her crazy with constant calls about dress fittings and bridal shower plans. My eldest daughter just kept showing up, kept helping, kept being the reliable one while Rochelle spiraled deeper into bridezilla territory. I should have seen the signs. I should have noticed how Rochelle started coming to Janelle's house more often, always when Darius was home. How she'd touch his arm when she laughed at his jokes. How she started dressing up more when she knew he'd be around. But I didn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to see it. 2 weeks before the wedding, Janelle called me crying. She'd been working double shifts at the hospital, exhausted from covering for other nurses during flu season, and Rochelle had called her selfish for not wanting to drive across town to look at napkin colors. "Mama, I'm trying," Janelle sobbed into the phone. "I'm really trying to be supportive, but she acts like I'm her servant instead of her sister. And Darius won't back me up. He just tells me to be patient with her." I told Janelle what I always told her, that Rochelle didn't mean it, that weddings made people stressed, that it would all be over soon. Looking back, I was making excuses. I'd been making excuses for Rochelle her whole life. Last week, Janelle had to work an overnight shift. She called me around dinner time, sounding dead on her feet, and asked if I could check on their house. They had a new puppy, a little golden retriever named Sunny, and Darius was supposed to be out of town for a work conference. Janelle wanted to make sure the puppy was fed and had water. I said of course I would. I always helped my girls when they needed me. But when I got to the house that evening, Darius's car was in the driveway. I figured his conference got canceled. No big deal. I almost turned around and went home, but then I remembered Janelle asked me to drop off some of her mama's old recipes I'd been meaning to copy for her. I had them in my purse, so I figured I'd just give them to Darius real quick. I let myself in through the front door, calling out so I wouldn't startle anybody. No answer. The puppy came running, tail wagging, and I bent down to pet him. That's when I heard voices from upstairs. Darius's voice and a woman's laugh. But it wasn't Janelle's laugh. I knew my daughter's laugh like I knew my own heartbeat, and this wasn't it. My chest got tight. I stood there in that foyer, my hand on that puppy's soft head. And I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe Darius had a coworker over. Maybe it was the TV. Maybe it was anything except what my gut was telling me it was. But then I heard footsteps coming down the stairs, and I saw Rochelle. She was wearing Janelle's bathrobe, the white one with the embroidered flowers that I'd given Janelle for her birthday. Rochelle's hair was wet like she'd just gotten out of the shower, and when she saw me, she froze. "Mama!" She clutched the robe tighter. "What are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" My voice came out harder than I intended. "This is my daughter's house. What are you doing here, wearing your sister's robe?" Darius appeared behind her, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, and the look on his face told me everything I needed to know. "Mrs. Washington, Rochelle just stopped by to," he started, but Rochelle cut him off. "I had a fight with Terrence," she said quickly, "about the wedding. I was upset and I came here and I spilled coffee on my dress, so I borrowed Janelle's robe while my clothes were in the dryer." It was a smooth lie, I'll give her that. She'd always been good at lying. When she was 16 and I caught her sneaking out, she convinced me she was just checking if the car doors were locked. When she was 23 and I found out she'd lost another job, she had a whole story about a toxic boss that I believed for months. But I wasn't 16 anymore, and I wasn't 23. I was 72 years old, and I'd seen enough of life to know when someone was feeding me garbage. "Where's your car?" I asked Rochelle. She blinked. "What?" "Your car. Where is it?" "I don't see it outside." I parked down the street. I didn't want to block the driveway." I nodded slowly, then looked at Darius. "And your conference?" "Got canceled last minute," he said, not meeting my eyes. "I decided to stay home." The puppy whined at my feet. I picked up my purse, dropped the recipes on the hall table, and turned to leave. Behind me, Rochelle called out, "Mama, please don't tell Janelle. There's nothing to tell, I promise. I didn't answer her. I walked out that door, got in my old sedan, and drove home with my hands shaking on the wheel. When I got home, I sat in my living room for 2 hours, staring at the photos on my mantel. Pictures of my girls as babies, at their graduations, at Janelle's wedding. I kept telling myself I didn't see what I thought I saw. I kept telling myself my daughter wouldn't do that to her own sister. But deep down, I knew. I knew the same way I knew when my husband was sick before the doctors told us. I knew the same way I knew when my mother was going to pass. Some things you just feel in your bones. I didn't tell Janelle. I couldn't. She was working so hard, so tired, and her sister's wedding was coming up. How could I break her heart like that without being sure? So I decided to wait, to watch, to see if I was wrong. That's how I ended up at Janelle's house today, carrying sweet potato pies and using that spare key, walking in on my worst nightmare confirmed. Rochelle kissing Darius in Janelle's kitchen, 1 week before Rochelle's wedding to another man, while Janelle sang in the church choir believing her husband and sister were good people. Now, here we were, the 3 of us standing in this kitchen with broken pies on the floor and secrets spilling out like that red wine on the counter. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "How long has this been going on?" Rochelle looked at Darius. Darius looked at the floor. Neither of them said a word. "Answer me," my voice cracked. "How long have you been betraying my daughter?" "Mama, you don't understand," Rochelle started. "Then make me understand. Make me understand how you could do this to your own sister." "Because I love him," Rochelle shouted, and the words hung in the air like a curse. "I love him, Mama. I've always loved him, since the day Janelle brought him home." My legs went weak. I grabbed the counter to steady myself. "You've loved him. For 5 years?" "Yes." Tears were running down Rochelle's face now, but I felt no sympathy. "I know it's wrong, but I can't help it. And he loves me too. We tried to fight it, but what?" I cut her off. "But you decided your feelings mattered more than your sister's marriage? More than her trust? More than your own wedding next week?" "The wedding with Terrence is a mistake," Rochelle said. "I know that now. I'm going to call it off." "You're going to call it off." I repeated her words slowly, trying to make sense of them. "After your sister and I helped plan everything? After Terrence's family put down thousands of dollars? After I emptied my savings to help pay for it? I'll pay you back. I don't want your money!" I slammed my hand on the counter and they both jumped. "I want to know what kind of daughter I raised who could do this. I want to know when you became this person." Darius finally found his voice. "Mrs. Washington, I take full responsibility. I should have been honest with Janelle from the start. I should have told her that I had feelings for Rochelle." "Feelings for Rochelle?" I repeated. "So you married Janelle while having feelings for her sister?" "I thought I could make it work," he said quietly. "I thought the feelings would go away. But they didn't. They got stronger." I looked at this man I'd welcomed into my family, this man I'd trusted with my daughter's heart. "Get out," I said. "What?" "Get out of this house, now, before I do something I regret." "Mama." Rochelle reached for me, but I stepped back. "Don't touch me." "Don't you dare touch me right now." Darius grabbed his keys and left without another word. Rochelle stood there, mascara running down her face, still wearing that expensive red dress. "What are you going to do?" she whispered. "Are you going to tell Janelle?" I looked at my youngest daughter, the baby I'd rocked to sleep every night after her father died, the little girl who used to bring me dandelions from the yard and call them roses. I didn't recognize her anymore. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But you'd better figure out what you're going to tell Terrence. And you'd better pray that God forgives you, because I don't know if I can." I turned to leave, And that's when I heard Janelle's voice behind me. "Tell me what?" She was standing in the doorway, still wearing her choir robe, her face confused. She must have gotten done with practice early. She looked from me to Rochelle to the broken pies on the floor, and I watched the confusion turn to concern. "Mama, what's going on? Why are you crying?" Time stopped. I looked at my eldest daughter standing there in her choir robe, her Bible tucked under her arm, and I couldn't find the words. How do you tell your child that the two people she loves most in this world have betrayed her? Rochelle spoke first. "Janelle, you're home early. I was just stopping by to talk to Mama about the wedding." Janelle's eyes swept the kitchen again, the broken pies, the spilled wine, Rochelle's guilty face, my tears. She wasn't stupid. She'd been a nurse for 10 years, trained to read people, to see what others missed. "Mama," she said slowly, walking further into the kitchen. "What happened? And why are you really here, Rochelle? Where's Darius?" "He had to run out," Rochelle said quickly. "Work emergency." "On a Saturday evening?" Janelle set her Bible down on the counter. "Try again." I found my voice. "Baby, maybe we should sit down." "I don't want to sit down." Janelle's voice got harder, sharper. "I want someone to tell me the truth. Right now." The silence stretched out between us. I could hear the kitchen clock ticking, Sonny whining from somewhere in the house, my own heart pounding in my ears. "Fine," Janelle said. "Nobody wants to talk? Then I will. I'm not blind. I've seen the way you look at him, Rochelle. I've seen the way he looks at you. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was just stressed and tired and seeing things that weren't there. But I wasn't. Was I?" Rochelle's face crumpled. "Janelle, answer me." Janelle's voice cracked. "Was I seeing things or not?" "No," Rochelle whispered. "You weren't seeing things." The sound Janelle made wasn't quite a scream and wasn't quite a sob. It was something worse, the sound of a heart breaking in real time. She grabbed the edge of the counter like her legs might give out. "How long?" she asked. "Does it matter?" Rochelle said, and I wanted to slap her for the coldness in her voice. "Yes, it matters. How long have you been sleeping with my husband?" "We haven't," Rochelle started, but I cut her off. "Don't lie to her. Don't you dare lie to her anymore." Rochelle's jaw tightened. 6 months. It started 6 months ago. 6 months. Half a year of lies, of family dinners where they sat across from each other pretending, of phone calls where Rochelle complained about wedding planning while carrying on with her sister's man. I felt sick. 6 months, Janelle repeated. She looked at me. "Did you know, Mama?" "I found out last week," I said. "I came by to check on Sonny like you asked, and I caught them. I didn't tell you because I wasn't completely sure, and I didn't want to hurt you without being certain." "You should have told me." There was no anger in her voice, just a terrible emptiness. "You should have told me right away." "I know, baby. I'm so sorry." Janelle turned back to Rochelle. "And your wedding? Next Saturday? What was your plan there? Marry Terrence while sneaking around with my husband?" "I'm calling off the wedding," Rochelle said. "I was going to tell Terrence this week." "How noble of you." The sarcasm in Janelle's voice was sharp enough to cut. "And where is Darius now?" "I sent him away," I said. "He left before you got here." Janelle laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Of course he did, because Darius always runs when things get hard. He ran from his first marriage. He ran from his debts, and now he's running from this." "His first marriage?" I asked. "What are you talking about?" Janelle looked at me with those tired, betrayed eyes. "You didn't know? Darius was married before. She left him because he cheated on her too, with her best friend. He told me it was a misunderstanding, that his ex-wife was crazy and vindictive. I believed him." She laughed again, that terrible bitter sound. "I actually believed him." My blood ran cold. All these years, I never knew. Janelle never told me. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. Because I was embarrassed, Mama. Because I thought I could fix him. Because everyone at church was so happy for us, and you walked me down that aisle with such pride in your eyes, and I didn't want to disappoint anybody. Tears were streaming down her face now. Turns out I was just repeating his ex-wife's story. Different woman, same ending. Rochelle had been quiet, but now she spoke up. It's different with us, Janelle. What Darius and I have is real. Get out. Janelle's voice was deadly calm. What? Get out of my house. Each word was its own sentence. Get out before I forget we share the same blood. Janelle, please. Now! Rochelle grabbed her purse and ran. The front door slammed so hard the pictures on the wall shook. And then it was just me and Janelle in that kitchen, with the broken pies and the spilled wine and the shattered trust. Janelle slid down the cabinet until she was sitting on the floor, and I sat down next to her, wrapping my arms around my daughter while she sobbed. We stayed like that for a long time, until the evening light faded and the kitchen got dark around us. Finally, Janelle spoke. What do I do now, Mama? First thing Monday morning, we're calling a lawyer, I said. You're going to divorce that man and take him for everything he's got. I don't care about the money. Well, I do. You worked double shifts to help pay for this house. You put money into his business when it was failing. You deserve every penny. I smoothed her hair back from her face. And then we're going to figure out how to tell Terrence before he finds out some other way. God, Terrence. Janelle put her head in her hands. That poor man. He bought a ring, planned a future, and his fiancée is in love with someone else. That's not your burden to carry, baby. That's Rochelle's mess. We sat there a while longer, and then Janelle said something that chilled me to the bone. Mama, the life insurance policy. What about it? Last month, Darius asked me to increase my life insurance. He said with both of us working, we should be covered in case something happened. He was so insistent about it. I thought he was just being practical. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with a new kind of fear. What if he wasn't being practical? What if he and Rochelle were planning something? Don't think like that, I said, but my voice shook. Don't even let your mind go there. But it was too late. The seed was planted, and once you think something like that, you can't unthink it. Had they been planning something worse than an affair? Had my own daughter been involved in something darker? Janelle pulled out her phone. I'm calling him. I need to know. She dialed, and I could hear it ringing on speaker. Darius answered on the third ring. Janelle, baby, please let me explain. Don't call me baby. Don't ever call me that again. Janelle's voice was steady now, cold and hard. I have one question. The life insurance policy. Why did you really want me to increase it? Silence on the other end. Answer me, Darius. I don't know what you're implying. Yes, you do. Was this whole thing planned? Were you and Rochelle planning to be together after I was conveniently out of the picture? Jesus, Janelle, no, I would never. You would never cheat on me with my sister, because you already did that. So forgive me if I don't believe anything you say. The insurance was just insurance, I swear. I'm filing for divorce Monday morning. Don't come back to this house. Don't call me. Don't contact me at all. My lawyer will be in touch. She hung up before he could respond. I looked at my daughter with new respect. She was devastated, but she wasn't broken. She was my child, and she had steel in her spine. Good girl, I said. Now we need to get you somewhere safe tonight. You can stay with me. I'm not leaving my house, Janelle said. I paid for half of it. I'm changing the locks tomorrow, and if he tries to come back, I'm calling the police. Then I'm staying here with you tonight. We called a 24-hour locksmith who came at 10 p.m. Cost me $200 I didn't really have, but it was worth it to see the look of determination on Janelle's face as she changed every lock in that house. We found some of Darius's clothes and threw them in garbage bags on the porch. His cologne, his shoes, his favorite coffee mug, all of it went outside like the trash it was. Around midnight, we finally settled on the couch with tea and blankets. Janelle laid her head on my shoulder, just like she used to when she was little and scared of thunderstorms. "How am I supposed to face everyone at church tomorrow?" she asked. "Everyone knows about the wedding next week. Everyone's been so excited. How do I tell them what happened?" "You don't have to tell them anything you don't want to. But if you ask me, the people who love you will stand by you, and the people who judge you weren't worth knowing anyway." We dozed off there on the couch, and I woke up around 3 a.m. to my phone buzzing. It was Rochelle calling. I declined it. She called again, and again. After the 5th call, I turned my phone off. Sunday morning came, and Janelle insisted on going to church. She put on a navy dress, fixed her hair, and held her head high. I went with her, my hand in hers, ready to face whatever came. Pastor Jerome was preaching on forgiveness, and the irony wasn't lost on me. I could feel people's eyes on us throughout the service. The church ladies who'd been helping plan Rochelle's wedding kept looking over at our pew, whispering behind their bulletins. After service, Pastor Jerome pulled us aside. He was a good man, had been our pastor for 20 years, and he could read people better than anyone I knew. "Sister Beatrice, Sister Janelle," he said gently. "Whatever's troubling you, my door is always open." Janelle looked at me, and I nodded. Sometimes you need spiritual guidance along with legal help. We went to his office and Janelle told him everything. Pastor Jerome listened without interrupting, his face growing more troubled with each word. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Sister Janelle, you are not alone in this. This church is your family, and we will support you through this trial. As for your sister and brother Darius, they will need to face the consequences of their actions, both with God and with this community." "What about Rochelle's wedding?" Janelle asked. "It's supposed to be here next Saturday." "There won't be a wedding," Pastor Jerome said firmly. "I will not perform a ceremony for someone who has committed such betrayal. I'll call Brother Terrence myself today and suggest we meet. He deserves to know the truth." We left the church feeling somewhat lighter, but as we got to the parking lot, we saw Rochelle waiting by my car. Her eyes were red from crying, her hair wasn't done, and she looked like she hadn't slept. "Please," she said when she saw us. "Please, I need to talk to both of you." "There's nothing to say," Janelle said, walking past her. "Janelle, wait. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Rochelle grabbed her arm and Janelle spun around. "You're sorry? You're sorry?" Janelle's voice rose, and people in the parking lot stopped to stare. "You slept with my husband for 6 months and you think sorry fixes that?" "I know it doesn't. I know nothing I say can fix this, but I'm still your sister." "No," Janelle said quietly. "A sister doesn't do what you did. I don't have a sister anymore." The words hung in the air between them, final as a judge's sentence. Rochelle's face went pale, and she stepped back like she'd been slapped. "You don't mean that," Rochelle whispered. "I've never meant anything more in my life." Janelle turned to me. "Mama, are you coming?" I looked at Rochelle, my baby girl, and felt something break inside me. She'd hurt her sister, betrayed her family, and shown me that I'd failed her somehow in raising her. But she was still my daughter, and some part of me, the part that remembered rocking her to sleep, that remembered her first words and her first steps. Some part of me still loved her, even while hating what she'd done. "I love you both," I said, my voice shaking. "But right now, I need to be with Janelle. She's the one who was wronged here." I got in the car with Janelle, and as we drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. Rochelle was standing in that parking lot, alone, watching us leave. and for the first time since this whole nightmare started, she looked like she truly understood what she'd lost. Monday morning, Janelle and I met with a lawyer named Patricia Coleman. She was a sharp woman in her 50s who came highly recommended by one of the nurses at Janelle's hospital. We sat in her office and laid out everything: the affair, Darius's previous marriage, the life insurance policy, all of it. Patricia took notes and nodded. You have grounds for an at-fault divorce based on adultery. In this state, that means we can go after a larger portion of the marital assets. The house, his business, his retirement accounts, all of it's on the table. I don't want to be vindictive, Janelle said. I just want out. Honey, Patricia said gently, this isn't about being vindictive. This is about protecting yourself. You said you helped fund his business? You worked double shifts while he was building his career? That's your money, too. Don't let him walk away with everything you built together while he was betraying you. By the end of the meeting, papers were being drawn up. Patricia said she'd have a process server deliver them to Darius by end of week. We were walking to the car when my phone rang. It was Terrence. My heart sank. Mrs. Washington, he said, his voice tight. Pastor Jerome called me this morning. He told me some things about Rochelle, about her and someone named Darius. I need to know if it's true. I looked at Janelle, who nodded. It's true, I said. Terrence, I'm so sorry. You deserve so much better than this. He was quiet for a moment. The wedding's off. I'm canceling everything. And I'm going to need Rochelle to reimburse my parents for what they put down for the venue and the catering. That's fair. Mrs. Washington, I really loved her. I thought we were building a life together. His voice cracked. How could she do this? I don't know, son. I truly don't know. After I hung up, Janelle said, Rochelle's been calling me non-stop. She left me 17 voicemails. Have you listened to any of them? No. And I'm not going to. She looked at me. Is that wrong? Should I hear her out? Baby, you don't owe her anything right now. You need to heal. If she really wants to apologize, to make amends, she can wait until you're ready. We drove back to Janelle's house, where we spent the afternoon boxing up more of Darius's things. Every photo got taken down, every gift got packed away. Janelle was methodical about it, her face a mask of calm determination. Around 5 p.m. there was a knock at the door. We looked through the peephole and saw Darius standing there. I'm not letting him in, Janelle said. Then I'll talk to him. I opened the door but stood in the doorway, blocking his entry. What do you want? I need to talk to Janelle. Please, Mrs. Washington. Just 5 minutes. You've got nothing to say that she needs to hear. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk at the store. What you did was a choice. You chose to betray my daughter every single day for 6 months. You chose to lie to her face. You chose to destroy your marriage. I love her. No, you don't. If you loved her, you wouldn't have done this. I started to close the door, but he put his foot in the way. Please, I'll do anything. Marriage counseling, therapy, whatever she wants. I'll cut off all contact with Rochelle. I'll do anything to fix this. That's when Janelle appeared behind me. Move your foot, Darius. He looked at her with desperate eyes. Baby, I said move your foot. Or I'll call the police and tell them you're violating the restraining order I'm filing tomorrow. He moved his foot and I slammed the door in his face. Through the window, we watched him stand there for a minute before finally walking back to his car. You okay? I asked Janelle. No, but I will be. She took a deep breath. Mama, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Anything, baby. Do you still consider Rochelle your daughter? Because I don't know if I can keep her as my sister and still be okay, and I need to know where you stand. My heart broke all over again. How do you choose between your children? How do you answer a question like that? She's my daughter, I said slowly. But that doesn't mean I condone what she did or that I'm not furious with her. Right now, you are my priority. You're the one who needs me. and that's not going to change." Janelle hugged me tight, and we stood there in her hallway, holding each other while the evening light faded outside. That night, after Janelle finally fell asleep, I sat alone in her guest room and let myself cry. I cried for my daughters, for the relationship they'd never get back. I cried for myself, for failing somehow to teach Rochelle about loyalty and consequences. I cried for the family I thought we were, and the broken pieces we'd become. My phone buzzed with a text. It was Rochelle. "Mama, Terrence broke up with me. He wants his parents' money back. The wedding's canceled, everyone's talking. I don't know what to do. Please call me." I stared at that text for a long time. Part of me, the mother part, wanted to call her, to comfort her, to help her figure out her next steps. But another part of me, the part that had watched Janelle's heart break, the part that was furious at the destruction Rochelle had caused, that part stayed my hand. I turned off my phone and tried to sleep. But all I could see when I closed my eyes was Rochelle standing in that church parking lot, alone, finally understanding what she'd lost. And Janelle, sitting on her kitchen floor, learning that the two people she trusted most had betrayed her in the worst possible way. Wednesday morning, I woke up to Janelle shaking me awake. Her face was white, her hands trembling. "Mama," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mama, you need to see this." She held out her phone, and what I saw there made my blood run cold. It was a Facebook post from Rochelle, posted at 2 a.m., and it was addressed to the whole world. "I'm done pretending. I'm done hiding. Yes, I had an affair with my sister's husband. Yes, I was engaged to someone else. Judge me all you want, but at least I'm being honest now. Darius and I are together, and we're not apologizing for love. Sometimes the heart wants what it wants, and you can't control that. To everyone who has something to say about it, you don't know the whole story. You don't know what Janelle's really like behind closed doors. You don't know how she treated Darius. So before you rush to play the victim card for her, remember there are always two sides to every story." I read it twice, 3 times, unable to believe what I was seeing. Rochelle wasn't just refusing to take responsibility. She was trying to make Janelle the villain. "She's saying I abused him," Janelle whispered, tears streaming down her face. "She's lying to everyone, making me look like the bad guy so they don't hate her. Mama, people are believing it. I'm getting messages asking if it's true, if I was cruel to Darius. My co-workers are asking questions. Everyone's talking." I pulled her close, my own hands shaking with rage. My baby daughter had taken betrayal to a new level, and I realized I didn't know her at all anymore. "Get dressed," I said to Janelle. "We're going to fix this right now." Within an hour, we were parked outside Rochelle's apartment building. I'd been there dozens of times, helped her move in, brought her groceries when she was between jobs. Now I was standing at her door with righteous fury burning in my chest. I knocked hard. Once, twice, 3 times. Rochelle opened the door in a bathrobe, her eyes widening when she saw us. "Mama!" I pushed past her into the apartment. Janelle followed, closing the door behind us. "Sit down," I said, my voice hard as stone. "Mama, if this is about the Facebook post, sit down." Something in my voice must have gotten through to her because she sat on her couch, pulling her robe tighter. I stood over her, and for the first time in her life, I let her see how truly angry I was. "You stood there Sunday and cried and apologized. You begged for forgiveness. You said you knew what you did was wrong. And then you went home and wrote that pack of lies on the internet for the whole world to see? It's not lies. Janelle wasn't perfect in that marriage. So that justifies sleeping with her husband?" Janelle's voice was deadly calm. "Tell me, Rochelle, what did I do that was so terrible? Did I work too many shifts at the hospital? Did I not give Darius enough attention while I was saving people's lives? Please, enlighten me." Rochelle's face flushed. You were always judging him, always making him feel small. He told me how you'd criticize his business decisions, how you made more money than him and threw it in his face. I never threw anything in his face. I supported his business when it was failing. I worked extra shifts to help pay our mortgage when his startup wasn't profitable. And you know what I got for that? A cheating husband and a backstabbing sister. He was unhappy, Janelle. You were so busy being the perfect nurse, the perfect daughter, the perfect everything, that you couldn't see your own husband was lonely. Then he should have talked to me. He should have suggested counseling. He should have done literally anything except sleep with my sister. Janelle's voice broke. And you should have told him no. You should have told him to fix his marriage instead of helping him destroy it. I loved him first. Rochelle stood up, her voice rising. Before you even met him, I loved him. I saw him at that Christmas party at your hospital 5 years ago, and I was going to ask him out, but you got to him first. You always get everything first. The good grades, the stable career, Mama's pride. You couldn't just let me have this one thing. The room went silent. This was the truth, finally. Not love, not fate, not any of the excuses she'd been making. Just petty jealousy and spite. So this was revenge? I asked quietly. All of this was because you thought your sister got something you wanted first? Rochelle's eyes filled with tears. It's not just that. I really do love him, and he loves me. We tried to stop, but we couldn't. Love doesn't destroy families, I said. Selfishness does. And that's all this is, baby girl. Pure selfishness. You've always taken her side, Rochelle shouted at me. Even now, even when she's the one who drove her husband away with her coldness and her perfect act. Janelle moved so fast I barely saw it. She grabbed Rochelle's laptop from the coffee table and opened it. Delete the post, right now. No. Delete it or I'll sue you for defamation. My lawyer already has it screenshotted. She says we have a solid case. You wouldn't. Try me. Delete it or I'll take you to court for everything you're worth. Which admittedly isn't much since Terrence wants his money back and you're about to be unemployed again, but I'll take it anyway. Delete the post. Rochelle stared at her sister, and whatever she saw in Janelle's face made her realize this wasn't a bluff. She grabbed the laptop and deleted the Facebook post, her hands shaking. There, happy? No, Janelle said. I won't be happy until you're out of my life completely. But it's a start. She turned to me. Mama, I'm done here. Are you coming? I looked at Rochelle one more time. You need help, baby. Professional help. Because something inside you is broken, and I don't know how to fix it anymore. So, you're choosing her over me? Rochelle's voice was small, childlike. I'm not choosing anyone. I'm standing with the person who was wronged. There's a difference. I headed for the door, then stopped. And Rochelle, you need to figure out how to pay back Terrence's family. And you need to find somewhere else to live, because I'm not helping you with rent anymore. It's time you learned to stand on your own 2 feet. We left her there, and I didn't look back. The divorce proceedings moved fast. Patricia Coleman was a force of nature in that courtroom. She had bank records showing how Janelle had contributed to Darius's business, evidence of the affair, and character witnesses lined up. Darius's lawyer tried to argue for a 50-50 split, but Patricia destroyed them. I sat in the courtroom gallery every day, watching my daughter hold her head high while her soon-to-be ex-husband squirmed in his seat. The judge was a stern black woman in her 60s named Judge Harriet Morrison, and she didn't suffer fools. On the 3rd day of hearings, Judge Morrison addressed Darius directly. Mr. Coleman, I've reviewed all the evidence in this case. Your wife worked double shifts to support your business ventures. She contributed more than half of the down payment for your marital home. She took on extra debt to help you through financial difficulties, and you repaid her by conducting a 6-month affair with her sister. Is that accurate? Darius's lawyer whispered something to him. Yes, Your Honor. But there were problems in the marriage. I didn't ask about problems. I asked if my summary was accurate. Yes, ma'am. Judge Morrison looked at him over her glasses. Then here's my ruling. Mrs. Washington Coleman will retain the marital home with 70% equity. Mr. Coleman will retain 30% to be paid out within 6 months. Mrs. Washington Coleman will receive 60% of Mr. Coleman's business assets and retirement accounts. Furthermore, Mr. Coleman will be responsible for all marital debts incurred during the marriage. This divorce is granted on grounds of adultery. She banged her gavel, and it was done. Janelle had won. More importantly, she was free. We walked out of that courthouse into the autumn sunshine, and for the first time in weeks, I saw my daughter smile. I can breathe again, she said. Mama, I can actually breathe. Patricia shook our hands. If you need anything else, you call me. And Janelle, don't let him drag his feet on that equity payment. I'll be watching. That evening, Janelle's phone started blowing up with messages. Word had gotten around about the divorce settlement, and people were reaching out with support. The nurses from her hospital organized a freedom party. The church ladies brought over casseroles and hugs. Even some people we barely knew sent messages saying they were proud of her for standing up for herself. But there was one message that stood out. It was from Darius's ex-wife, a woman named Simone. I heard what happened, she wrote. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. He did the same thing to me. If you ever want to talk to someone who understands, I'm here. Janelle called her that night, and they talked for 2 hours. Afterward, Janelle told me. She warned me, Mama. 5 years ago, when we first started dating, she tried to tell me who he really was, but I didn't listen. I thought she was just bitter. You were in love, I said gently. Love makes us blind sometimes. Not anymore. I'm done being blind. Meanwhile, Rochelle's life was falling apart. Terrence had taken her to small claims court for the money his parents spent on the wedding, and he won. She'd lost her apartment because she couldn't make rent without my help. Word got around at her job about what she'd done, and suddenly she was being passed over for promotions, left out of social events. The gossip mill in our community was ruthless, and she was at the center of it. She called me one night, sobbing. Mama, I lost everything, my apartment, my fiancé, my reputation. Darius won't even return my calls now. He's saying it was all my fault, that I seduced him. Everyone hates me. I don't know what to do. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her it would be okay. But I thought about Janelle, about everything she'd been through, and I couldn't do it. You made your choices, Rochelle. Now you have to live with them. So you really are choosing her over me. I'm not choosing anyone, but I'm not going to enable you anymore either. You need to figure this out yourself. I'm your daughter. Yes, you are. And I love you. But love doesn't mean protecting you from consequences. It means hoping you learn from them. I took a deep breath. When you're ready to take real responsibility, not just say sorry, but actually change who you are, then we can talk. But until then, I need some distance. She hung up on me. I sat there in my living room, holding the phone, and let myself grieve for the daughter I thought I had and the woman she'd actually become. 3 months later, I was at Janelle's house helping her paint the bedroom. She was redecorating, making the house truly hers. We were covered in paint and laughing at some silly joke when the doorbell rang. Janelle opened the door, and there stood Rochelle. She looked different, thinner, tired, but also somehow more grown up. She wasn't wearing makeup, and her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. I know you probably don't want to see me, Rochelle said quietly, and you don't have to let me in, but I wanted you to know that I'm in therapy, real therapy, twice a week. And I got a job, just retail, but it's honest work and I'm paying my own bills. I'm renting a room from an older lady who goes to a church across town. Janelle stood in the doorway, her face unreadable. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Rochelle continued. I know I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did and make sure I never hurt anyone like that again." "Okay," Janelle said simply. "Okay?" "I hear you. Thank you for telling me." She started to close the door, then paused. "Rochelle, I hope therapy helps. I really do. But I'm not ready to have you in my life yet. Maybe someday, but not now." "I understand." Rochelle's eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. "Take care of yourself, Janelle. You deserve to be happy." She turned to leave, and that's when she saw me standing in the hallway. "Mama." "Baby girl." We looked at each other across the distance, and I saw real remorse in her eyes this time. Not self-pity, not excuses, but genuine regret. "I'm sorry," she said. "For everything. You raised me better than this, and I failed you." "You didn't fail me," I said, surprising myself. "You failed yourself, but it's not too late to fix it. Keep going to therapy. Keep being honest. Keep trying." She nodded and walked away. I watched her go, and for the first time, I felt like maybe there was hope for her after all. Janelle closed the door and looked at me. "Was that okay? Telling her I'm not ready?" "That was perfect, baby. You get to set your boundaries. You don't owe her anything." We went back to painting, and the subject of Rochelle didn't come up again that day. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Janelle met someone new. His name was Lawrence, and he was a physical therapist at her hospital. They'd worked together for years, but suddenly they were seeing each other differently. He asked her to coffee, then dinner, then a weekend trip upstate. I met him at Sunday dinner, and I watched how he looked at my daughter, with respect, with kindness, with genuine admiration. He listened when she talked. He laughed at her jokes. He treated her like she was precious. "I like him," I told her after he left. "He's good people." "I like him too," she said, smiling. "And Mama, I'm happy, really, truly happy. I didn't think I could be, but I am." That's when I knew she was going to be okay. A year after everything fell apart, I got a letter from Rochelle. She was still in therapy, still working retail, and she'd started taking classes at the community college. She wrote about the work she was doing on herself, about learning to deal with jealousy and insecurity, about understanding the damage she'd caused. "I don't expect you or Janelle to forgive me," she wrote, "but I wanted you to know I'm not the person I was a year ago. I'm trying every day to be better. I hope someday I can prove that to you." I showed the letter to Janelle. She read it carefully, then handed it back. "What do you think?" I asked. "I think she's trying. That's good. But trying doesn't erase what she did." Janelle paused. "Maybe someday we can have some kind of relationship again, but it won't ever be what it was. She killed that when she kissed Darius." "I know, baby." "Do you still talk to her?" "Every few weeks. Short conversations. I ask how she's doing. She tells me about work and therapy. I don't help her financially, and I don't spend time with her in person yet. But I answer when she calls." Janelle nodded. "That's fair." "She's still your daughter. So are you. You're both my daughters. This whole mess doesn't change that." As for Darius, he'd moved 2 states away after the divorce. I heard through the church gossip that his business went under. Turned out Janelle's contributions had been keeping it afloat. He tried to contact Janelle a few times, wanting to reconnect, but she blocked him on everything. Last I heard, he was engaged again, to someone he met online. I said a prayer for that poor woman. Today, 2 years after I walked in on that kiss in Janelle's kitchen, I'm sitting in my backyard watching Janelle and Lawrence plant flowers. They got married 3 months ago in a small ceremony at the church, and he makes her laugh every single day. They're talking about buying a bigger house, maybe starting a family. My phone buzzes with a text from Rochelle. "Finished my first year at community college, got straight A's. Hope you're proud. I text back. I am. Keep going. It's not much, but it's something. Baby steps toward healing, toward maybe someday having both my daughters in the same room again, without the weight of betrayal crushing us all. I think about that day I stood in Janelle's kitchen doorway, watching my world shatter. I think about how close we came to losing everything, how close I came to losing both my daughters, one to betrayal and one to heartbreak. But we survived. Janelle found her strength, found her worth, found real love with someone who deserves her. Rochelle is learning, slowly, to be a better person. And me? I learned that being a mother sometimes means stepping back, setting boundaries, and letting your children face the consequences of their choices. We're not the family we used to be. That family died the day I walked in on that kiss. But we're building something new, something more honest, something stronger. It's smaller now, more careful, but it's real. And sometimes, that's enough. Janelle calls over to me. Mama, come help us decide where the roses should go. I get up from my chair, my hip aching a little but my heart light, and join my daughter and her husband in the garden. The past is behind us. The future is full of possibility. And for the first time in 2 years, I can honestly say we're all going to be okay. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.